All right, let's just dive right in. We've all been there, right? You finish a great book or you watch a mind-bending movie finale, and what's the first thing you do? You rush online to see what the creator has to say about it. But what if their opinion doesn't actually matter? Yeah, that's the big, kind of challenging idea we're going to unpack today.
You know, it seems like such a simple question, but it's actually one of the deepest, most heated debates in the entire world of art. Is it the artist, the person who poured their heart and soul into creating it, or is it us, the audience, who bring all of our own baggage and experiences to the table? Or is it something else entirely?
So this whole debate really boils down to two opposing camps. On one side, you've got the people who say the artist's intention is everything. If you want to know what the art means, you have to know what the artist planned for it to mean. Simple. But on the other side, there's a much more radical idea. The moment an artist finishes a piece and puts it out into the world, it's not theirs anymore. It's a public object, and its meaning has to be found right there inside its own four corners, not by trying to read the creator's mind.
And look, this isn't just some casual argument you'd have over coffee. Back in the mid-20th century, this whole debate really came to a head, all thanks to a group of thinkers who wanted to fundamentally change the way we talk about art.
So, let's pull back the curtain a little and meet our key player and the intellectual movement he helped lead. We're talking about the American philosopher Monroe Beardsley and this school of thought called the New Criticism.
Monroe Beardsley was a heavy hitter in aesthetics. That's the philosophy of art. His book, Aesthetics, is still considered one of the absolute landmark works in the field from the 20th century. But he wasn't just some abstract thinker in an ivory tower. He was part of a movement with a very, very clear mission.
You see, the new critics were looking around at how people analyzed art, and they were just frustrated. They felt that critics were acting more like biographers or amateur psychologists. They were obsessed with the artist's childhood, their motivations, the politics of their time, basically everything except the actual poem or painting sitting right in front of them.
And the rallying cry for this whole movement was summed up perfectly by another critic, Alan Tate, with this simple but powerful line: "We must return to the poem itself." That was it. That was the whole game. To them, a work of art was its own thing, an autonomous object. And a critic had one job and one job only: to analyze that object with intense, focused attention.
Okay, so this brings us to their most famous and definitely most controversial idea. It came from a landmark essay Beardsley co-wrote back in 1946. It's a concept called the intentional fallacy.
So what the heck is it? Well, the intentional fallacy is the mistake, the fallacy, of thinking that what the artist intended to do is the proper way to judge their work. Beardsley basically argued that hunting for the artist's grand plan is a total distraction from the real task, which is analyzing the thing that actually exists in the world. And the way they explain this is just perfect. They said, look, judging a poem is like judging a pudding. A chef can intend to make the most incredible, delicious pudding you've ever tasted. But if what comes out of the kitchen is burnt and tastes like salt, his good intentions don't save it. It's a bad pudding. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, period.
So the logic kind of flows like this. Step 1. Once an artist is done, the artwork has a life of its own. Step 2. Its meaning isn't some secret locked away in the artist's head. It's right there, out in the open, in the words on the page or the colors on the canvas for everyone to see. Which leads to the conclusion we have to judge the work based on that public evidence, on what we can actually see and hear, not on some private blueprint we can't ever really know.
All right, so now that we get the intentional fallacy, let's see how this one big idea fits into Beardsley's larger philosophy, because this wasn't just a one-off complaint, it was a core piece of a whole new system for looking at art.
Beardsley argued that when we talk about art, we're really only doing one of three things. We're either describing it, there's a red patch in the corner, we're interpreting it, this refers to betrayal, or we're evaluating it. This piece is excellent. And for him, the evidence for all three of those claims had to come from inside the work itself. So if an artist says in an interview, "Oh, I meant for that line to be ironic," for Beardsley, that's external evidence. It's interesting maybe, but it shouldn't be the final word.
Okay, but here's where it gets really, really interesting. If we're supposed to completely ignore the artist's intention when we're trying to figure out what a poem means, then how on earth are we supposed to decide if something is a poem to begin with? This whole idea creates a fascinating little paradox right in the middle of Beardsley's own philosophy.
Because what's so fascinating is that when Beardsley himself had to come up with a definition for what art even is, look at the key word he used. He said art is an arrangement of conditions intended to be capable of creating an aesthetic experience.
Exactly. The very thing he told us we had to ignore to interpret art is suddenly the cornerstone of his definition of what art is. So, what gives? How can that possibly be?
And this is where you see just how subtle his thinking was. Beardsley made a really sharp distinction. For him, you need intention just to get in the door, to be considered art in the first place. But once you're in the club, once a thing is officially art, then its meaning and its value have to be judged only on what it is, on what it presents to us, totally separate from that original intention.
So, okay, this was a huge debate in the 40s and 50s, but why are we talking about it today? Well, because this fundamental tension, this battle between the creator and the creation, is more relevant right now than it has ever been.
This is not some dusty academic exercise. It cuts right to the heart of how we all consume culture, films, music, books, especially in an age of social media, where the artist is always there, ready to comment on their own work 24/7.
I mean, you see this every single day. A director jumps on Twitter to explain their movie's confusing ending and settle the debate once and for all. A novelist does an interview and reveals a character's true secret motivation. A songwriter goes on a podcast and spells out exactly what that cryptic lyric was about. For a strict Beardsley follower, all of that is just interesting biographical trivia. It's not criticism. The actual meaning has to be found in the film or in the song itself. The artist doesn't get to have the final word. Which leaves us with this huge final question. Is a piece of art a message sent from a creator's mind, and our job is to decode it? Or is it an object, just waiting for an audience to come along and discover what's inside? Beardsley drew a very clear line in the sand, but his ideas also opened the door for even more radical theories, like the death of the author, which says the creator's voice is just one among many. In the end, this debate is far from over. And where meaning truly lives, well, that might just be up to you.